So right now I am in the process of getting everything set up and ready to go. I'm going to check the audio while Odyssey's running, see if everything's working and in order. Right now Rumble is still doing its whole thing. I got to hit refresh. Right now audio's good on Rumble. Nothing has started on X yet. Okay, so right now I am in the process. Audio sounds good on X. Gotta create broadcast and then make the post. So let's go ahead and do that. Audio's good. Audio sounds good on X. Now make the post. Audio sounds good on X. And now I do live stream. The Storyteller. And hit post. Okay, so that is sounding good on there. It looks like my post or my stream starting on Pro. So yeah, we got that going. I am using YouTube as well. So yeah, we got that going. YouTube sounds good. Right on. So Odyssey is ready to go too. All I gotta do is hit play or start on that one, and I'm going now. Today I've been using Kick, but since this is the last episode of the Storyteller, I'm not going to be streaming it on Kick. I want to start that fresh next year whenever I do. This is going to be the last episode for the Storyteller for 2024. I'll come back and do some more later on, so just I'm not going to do it on Kick this year, so let me see here. Wait till this thing kicks in finally, and then I'll be able to tell if it's good to go. It's supposed to be up and running though. Odyssey is something else. It's been giving me issues here lately. I know that they're doing the thing now to where you have to manually upload. It doesn't sync to YouTube or anything, but it seems like they're having some issues at the moment. It's really strange how that's going on. Let's see. Just keep hitting refresh. Let me go to my uploads and see if it's even registering as being there. No, it just says starting soon. Well, according to what I've got, you're already supposed to be starting. So let me see what's going on here. Yeah. On my uploads, it says it's already there too. So I don't really know what's happening. I do have the slots set up, so if I can't get it on there, I can just record the show and then put it on there. That's an option. But I really would rather be able to do a live stream. So, and like I said, it's been causing me problems. Nope. Absolutely nothing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and put in a little bit of music right now. Now Rumble's causing me issues. Let me see what's going on here real quick. Yeah. stop this and find out if maybe I have to restart it. Yeah, it's not even getting megabytes per second. Or frames per second, I should say. Yeah. Nothing. That's just horrible. Oh, there it is. We're getting something finally. Let's see what's happening. Hit refresh on Odyssey. Nothing. It's pretty crazy. There we go. Oh, there it is. We're getting. Okay, so we have Odyssey up and running. Absolutely. Okay, so Odyssey, Rumble's looking good still. Let me see what's going on here. It says. Oh, there it is. Okay, so X is still going. Oh, there it is. YouTube is still going. And we got it. Okay. Okay, so we got everything finally going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of music in real quick and let you guys listen to it. I'll be back here in a minute. I'm running a little bit late. Pretty much I'm an hour over time, so I will be back to start my show for the final episode of the Storyteller for 2024, and I'll be right back. So I hope you guys enjoy this song, or this little bit of a beat. Okay, so I am back. I have everything set up and ready to go. Like I said tonight, I wanted to finish up on the the short story that I've been writing. Tonight is finally me going over my rough draft. And before I even say any more, I do want to point out the fact that this is my rough draft. So before I get going as well, I need to do my countdown and hit record. So let me get that done, and then we will get on with the episode. So 3, 2, 1, now. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Storyteller. Today is going to be my last episode for The Storyteller in 2024. I will be back next year, most likely sometime around this year, starting around at least around August, maybe, or no, not August, but October, maybe November. It all depends on how well things go next year. But that's usually when I start up The Storyteller and get things going. Now, I went through and I did some of the stories earlier on in my streams. I took a break from it so that I could cover Pulp Fiction magazines and some of the stuff that was interesting there. I'm really glad I did that, because in my previous streams I went over other people like Walt Whitman and writers of that nature. So this time I was able to dive deeper into some of the stuff that I do like with Conan the Barbarian. I really love the stories from Pulp Fiction about that on the magazines, as well as going into H.P. Lovecraft. So I've got all of that taken care of, and I finally was able to crack down on my writing and try to get this rough draft done. Now, before I start, what I do want to tell you is this is my rough draft. It's like I said just before the end of I hit record on the stream, and since it is my rough draft, what I am going to do is just go to in my reading, I'm just going to go to the catalyst and stuff and go through that. Now, I went through my outline and I went through the plot, so I have that covered, but I do want to kind of go over some of that before I get into reading this rough draft. Okay, now I do have to say that this was a lot easier than what it was in the first short story that I made for this series, and it was because I cut out a couple of things, and that did work out pretty good. So what I did with this one is I started out with adding a prologue to it, and this story, instead of it being about Zuthra, it's about Tiana. And that was the hardest character that I had when it comes to developing the character, because she was kind of like the character that didn't fit, you know what I mean, with all the other ones. I'm debating now on if I want to, go further with Zuthra's other wives as well, because they have some pretty interesting things that I do want to cover. One of them is a character that I created who's a Caesarean, and if anybody knows anything about history and the Caesareans, they had a pretty strict religious belief, and I wanted to incorporate that into this character, but I also wanted to make her be native to a planet that was really, really unforgiving, and she and her society, I guess you could say, had to live underground. So these are Caesareans who had to live underground in tunnels and underground cities and things of that nature. And that was an avenue that I did want to cover. Now, this one was really strange for me, and it didn't really fit in, because what it was is I wanted to incorporate the what I had the Scourge Maidens out of Forgotten Realms. And if anybody's played role-playing games, they know what I'm talking about with that. Off of Forgotten Realms, there's a character they're called the Scourge Maidens, and they're pretty evil, you know. So I wanted to incorporate aspects of that kind of character into my story, which, let me say also, that she's not a Scourge Maiden. She just has aspects from them added into it. But there was a lot more when it comes to her brutality and stuff that I did want to put in the original first story to the series with Zuthra, but the story was way too short, and that is one issue that I've been having. Like, I can write a real long story, and I've said this before, but when it comes to making a short story, it becomes a bit more complicated for me. I could sit down and write you anything. I could write you a 300 story about anything whatsoever, you know. So, but if you ask me to write something that's 10 pages long, man, I mean, I've had issues with that. It's hard for me to actually, you know, sit down and just write a short 10, 11 page story. So this has become quite a bit of an adventure for me, to be honest with you. So, but I did find it enjoyable, and I'm giving it a shot, you know. But the first story that I did with Zuthra, I found that I had to actually, you know, cut down on some of the stuff when it comes to a lot of the characters and the things about them. Now, when I started this one, I wanted to focus first, actually, to be honest, I wanted to go into the Draco and kind of go over their story. And then I got a few suggestions telling me, no, you know, focus on Tiana first and then lead into the Draco. So I went that route, and I can see why, because it gives the story more of a foundation, and it also it puts more into Tiana's character, which is really, really cool that it did that. So that's what I did, and even after starting it, I started realizing that well, first of all, with adding the prologue and everything, that was good. But I noticed in Act 1, the opening scene, I did have to actually go into my outline and break it down a little bit more and do more things that are more topics, like the plot that I made didn't really have enough information in it, so I had to actually go in and add more to my outline, and that's one reason why I'm still going, no matter what, I'm still going to stick to using my outline as well as doing a plot in the story, because my outline, to me, seems to be it seems to be actually benefit, you know. So using a plot would be good, but also using an outline would be better. Hold on a minute, guys. Okay, so I'm back. So what I did is I basically had to put in more parts into the story, especially when it comes to the setup, and well, not the setup, but for the opening scene, and that the yeah, and something else I forgot too is the prologue and the opening scene. I did one page for each of them. Now, with the opening scene, I also made it to where it was a scene that described just one situation that was happening at that moment. You know what I mean? It was the opening scene, like what people first see when they start reading a story. And I had to make that about one page. So I did the opening scene for Tiana's story, and I went down and I had to do the setup. Now that has to be 1 page or 2 pages, and I noticed that through all of these I had to expand my outline more so that I could have more content in the story, which was completely different. I wasn't used to that. Usually when I write a story, I put too much information in and I have to cut it down. So when I take a look at that, I'm kind of glad by doing that. That means I'm actually able to minimize the story as much as I can, which, like I said just now, that's a pretty big deal. And I'm really glad I started recording, because all of a sudden Odyssey is cutting in and out on me again. But if you guys are getting me cut in and out, I apologize for that. It's just the way things have been lately. But anyhow, that is basically some of the issues that I did have when it came to doing a lot of this. I had to go through and expand my story, which I thought that was pretty good. So after that, I went into the Catalyst, and the Catalyst, I also I did have to expand it, but I actually put more of the character's background and the things that were going on around her, especially when it comes to like the inner turmoil inside of her mind, you know, and the things that were going on, because she's supposed to be going crazy. And I was able to really emphasize that the most. That was the reason why I wanted to end it at the Catalyst, because I don't want to do the whole story, because like I said, this is just the first draft. Later when I come back, I'll read the final draft to you. Usually, like I said previously, I just let this story sit and rest, and I come back to it maybe a month or two later and look at it. And that's basically how I do it. Now with the Catalyst, I had to write 2 pages for the Catalyst, and then I moved on to the debate, and the debate was 2 pages as well. And from there I went on to the finale, and the finale is basically the end of Tiana's rule, and that had to be 2 pages too. And like I said, I should have put more into my outline and my outline for each of these, so I had to expand them and everything. And once I did that, once I finally did the finale, I had to do a closing image. Now that is the same as the opening image. It's just one scene, and it has to only be one scene. Like it can't be talking about, you know, the way the universe is or anything like that. It has to be one scene that describes how things are after the story is done. So that's basically how I set it up. I did for a page breakdown, the opening image was 1 page, setup was 2 page, the Catalyst 2 page, debate 2 page, break into 2 pages, finale 2 pages, and then the closing image was 1 page. So that is basically how all of it really set up and went down. I wanted to cover that so that we could actually get that taken care of first. Now, I am wanting to try to make this as close to an hour as I can. You know what I mean? Because I know how this really isn't the most entertaining part of the thing. So, but I'll do my best to do that. I'm not making any guarantees. But what I am going to do is just start reading the story. If I only make it a half an hour long, that's fine. If I make it an hour or 45 minutes, that's okay too. I'm just gonna get this done so that I can move on, do some more later on. Get focused on my writing. So with that being said, I will go ahead and read the story. I had to do this without coffee too, so I'm kind of stressing out. Okay, so the name of the story is Clash the Realms of Lycia, the Descent of Tiana. And this is the prologue. The footsteps left behind of what was once Lycia will definitely include the story of Tiana and the part she played in its downfall. Seduced by Zuthra through her bloodlust and desire for brutality, Tiana becomes one of his wives. It was never Tiana's intention to be married to a man, seeing that she was from a society dominated by women. Men were mere pawns to use, a means to an end, used for battle fodder, procreation, and harsh labor. Her blood boiled at the thought of being Zuthra's wife, and revenge would eventually be the downfall of Zuthra and the entire Lycian Empire. Through networks of the underground within Lycia, an alliance was formed between Tiana and the dark forces of the Draco, a reptilian race from the darkest planes of existence. The Draco wished to dominate and manipulate the human races for their own nefarious purposes through genetic altering through genetically altering reptilian and human genes. They intend to create the ultimate hybrid species. An alliance was created between a Draco priest named Obtu and Tiana, which resulted in the utter destruction of what was once the Lycian Empire. Because of this alliance, Tiana was able to establish a foothold of power, but the madness that flowed through her mind would eventually bring an end to that as well. The old ways of her people were that of destruction and control over those they conquered. Fused with the taste for blood and the desire with power, her nature would be the beginning of the end for Tiana and her desires to rule. Through retribution and revenge, Tiana was able to establish her power, a foothold which led to her eventual rule of what was left of Lycia, a dead empire left in dismay, with grand structures laid waste from the Draco invasion. Through Tiana's madness, her descent was guaranteed. Her bloodlust and desire for power is a cautionary tale about its corrupting nature and the fine line between a ruler and a tyrant. A cunning warrior in her earlier years, Tiana was a formidable leader of her people. As time passed, the madness that swirled within her mind developed into an insatiable, unsatisfied desire for brutality and torture. This led to what is now taking place with her last remaining followers, those that she once called her people. Her desires for bloodlust has resulted in bizarre experiments and torture. gene splicing and gene modification was not the only thing that Draco experimented with. It was technology, assembling a cyborg race of beings. These creatures would serve Draco and their allies faithfully and without hesitation. Isolating even further into madness, Tiana separates herself physically as well as mentally from those around her. Through torture and bizarre behaviors, the insanity within Tiana's mind slowly unravels before the people around her. Fear begins to emerge as those she once called her people began to question her sanity and leadership. Slowly, these once followers of Tiana began to flee from her control. The insanity and inner turmoil within Tiana's mind eventually leads her subjects to the brink of rebellion and abandonment. She is out of touch with those that she once called her people, and the lust for blood and power takes their place, finding herself surrounded by dark, shadowy people and dark places with nobody to trust, not even herself. Tiana sees her followers as mere objects and her actions upon them as inconsequential. The inner moral decay within her and her obsession with bloodshed shows how Tiana has begun to lose touch with humanity. Now there's some things in there that I do have to work on and kind of tweak and make them sound a little bit better, but I that was what I really enjoyed putting together for just the beginning part of it. Like I said, this is the rough draft of it, and that is the prologue, but that's basically what the prologue comes down to. And then after that, I go into the Descent of Tiana, which that's what the actual story is called. So I put the prologue in first, and then I came in with the beginning of the story, the opening scene. And just so people know what I was talking about with it, the opening scene is supposed to be just basically a scene, an image that you're supposed to see in your head at of one scene that's taken place, and then it goes from there into the story. So that's what's taking place here at the beginning, and that's only 1 page long. So let me go ahead and do that. The Descent of Tiana. Dark skies loom over the crumbling remnants of the once mighty empire of Lycia. Tiana's... Hold on, I've got to... Yeah, okay. The dark skies loom over the crumbling remnants of the once mighty empire of Lycia. Hold on, I'm getting too much noise behind me. I'll be right back. me try to get through this as soon as I can. It seems like the moment I decide that I need to do this, all of a sudden, okay? So, let me do this again. I may have to be coming back and forth in between all this because I've got some situations going on right now. So, the descent of Tiana. Dark skies loom over the crumbling remnants of the once mighty empire of Lycia. Tiana sits upon her throne, now the ruler of what is left. Her eyes betray her with a slight flicker of madness that dwells within Tiana's mind. It's hidden away from spectating eyes as she sits within a dimly lit throne room, surrounded by shadowy figures, leading a life of isolation, not only from the outer world but also within. Her mind is filled with conflict and turmoil as she tries to hold back her desires for brutality and bloodlust. As the supposed ruler of her proxy government, now ruled by Draco, Tiana must show restraint. Her taste for violence continues to overtake her desires, though. The remnants of what was Lycia are reminders to Tiana of the past, creating whispers in her head that fill the air as she sits upon her makeshift throne of blood and bones. The once ruler, now but a mere tyrant and proxy ruler of the Draco Empire, sits upon her throne watching as her subjects are brought before her. By the herd they are gathered up and called. Standing before their now ruler, they submit to her will. Watching from the makeshift throne, Tiana watches as her subjects are separated and categorized. Some will be sent to places for genetic experimentation, some to places worse. They will be the ones who the Draco use as food. Since Draco had discovered the existence of the human race, they had always enjoyed their flesh. It was a delicacy among their people. Crumbling remnants of a once vibrant world still lay in shambles, while those who remained after the invasion are now overshadowed by the oppressed rule of the Draco. These are times of betrayal and whispers of rebellion. Tiana sits upon that throne of flesh and bone, what remains of the victims to the torture and brutality she exerts, hearing whispers of betrayal all around her in the shadows, whispers that nobody else can hear but her. She thinks to herself of ways to retain her power and acquire more. Tiana restrains from the full desire that she has to torture and destroy those around her. She knows that she needs them so that she can gain more. Survivors of the Lycian invasion who were left behind view the Draco as their gods. Tiana uses this to gain power over those who remain by setting up barbaric rituals of sacrifice. She imposes absolute rule over her subjects, proclaiming herself as the high priestess of the Draco. These barbaric practices are only a disguise, allowing the actual dark experimentations to take place in the background. In secrecy, Tiana is allowing people to be used for hybrid gene experimentation, allowing the Draco to fuse the reptilian gene with human genes, creating hideous hybrid creatures. Tiana's madness is slowly revealed as her followers. Tiana's madness is slowly revealed to her followers, though, and opinions among them are split. Some see the signs of her madness as divine favor among Draco, while others who witness her cruelty and the horrors she has committed no, while others who witness her cruelty and the horrors she has committed are divided between confrontation and loyalty. Tiana came. That was kind of weird how I read that. So let me do it again. Tiana's madness is slowly revealed to her followers, though, and opinions among them are split. Some see the signs of her madness as divine favor among Draco, while others who witness her cruelty and horrors she has committed. Okay, yeah, that's what happened. I have to correct that. While others who witness her cruelty and the horrors she has committed are divided between confrontation and loyalty. Tiana came from a society that was dominated by females, and that society was always cruel to the male population. This was far worse, though. The torture was now extended not only to men, but to women also. Now, after the mass exodus of the Lycian population, a proxy government was established, with Tiana placed on the throne, with the now devout human followers of the Draco, who remained as her subjects to rule. She became a puppet for the Draco to control. Her thirst for vengeance had led her down a path for power, and her lust for torture became something that she could no longer publicly allow people to see. It had to be hidden away from view, hidden within the darkest parts of her mind until the right time, when she could unleash it with justifiable fury against those who opposed her. Tiana's desires, fueled with the obsession for bloodshed, created the beginning to the end for her. She had to maintain the idea of a benevolent ruler while maintaining absolute rule. This was an issue, as she also had the bloodlust that coursed through her being, with every thought consumed by her thirst. The dualism of her thoughts, the inner and outer appearance of what she wanted and what she had to be in front of people, created conflict within herself. She was far from kind-hearted indeed. Reality became blurred for Tiana, who is unable to tell what is real and fantasy. Whispers ring out in her head. Though she suspects betrayal, her delusional mind convinces her that she has a faithful following, loyal to her every whim. Though she suspects the idea of her subjects betraying her, she still feels that she is beyond reproach and in an almost godlike position of power among her people. Her main belief is that her people has remained loyal to her, but she knows in her subconscious mind that betrayal is around every corner. Indeed it is, because with those whispers comes a bit of reality, as the people who once followed Tiana do whisper in rebellion. These whispers have also begun to grow, spreading among those who once saw her and the Dracos as deities. They watch as she slowly decays into madness and spurts of emotional outbursts revealing her true nature. Secrets can be kept for only so long, until those emotions hidden deep inside spill out to those who are around you. As time went by, this became the case. She sees herself as a strong leader, hidden in denial, a leader with loyal followers who adore her. Meanwhile, her madness is slowly unraveling, showing the true nature of what she really is and what she will soon become. The fantasy of power mixed with desires of chaotic and lustful dark treachery is all that Tiana sees. It is delusional, full of lies that she tells herself. Her mind is the true enemy, and she is the one who will bring her final demise. Through barbaric rituals, Tiana puts on a show, disguising the true nature of why her subjects are being called. The Draco demand for subjects in their experiments, attempts of creating the perfect hybrid human-reptilian being. She once thought of her people as her own. Now she sees them as mere subjects to do with as she pleases. She sees herself as superior to those around her, designed to greatness, and the cost of others doesn't even fit into the equation. And the cost of others doesn't even fit into the equation. We often hear about absolute power, but we also must remember that power corrupts absolutely. It's a realm that consumes the soul, taking away humanity and replacing it with something so much darker within. Those who still blindly follow Tiana view her as much more than their ruler. They see her as a divine avatar of the Draco gods, a deity that brings hope to those who are hopeless within a wasteland created by the ones they worship. These poor, blind, subjugated, and weak-minded people who offer themselves willingly to the altars they themselves erected are sacrificed to gods who have no feelings for them whatsoever. These altars of horror, where the blood drips down onto its basin, and mangled flesh still sits atop, washed away as servants throw water on it to keep it somewhat clean. Her servants of death see her outbursts of madness and believe that they are divine omens from the Draco. Tiana has visions and terrifying dreams of her subjects being tortured and suffering under her own hands, creating a delusional might filled with conflict. Yeah, that's something I messed up right there. Filled with conflict. Creating a delusional mind filled with conflict. These dreams make her desires explode, craving death more and more. So that was a mess up right there on my fault. A delusional mind. Okay. Creating a delusional mind filled with conflict, these dreams make her desires explode, craving death more and more. These dreams blur the lines of reality and delusion, making it hard for Tiana to disguise the true from the false. The whispers are all around her, and she isolates in order to subdue them, thus becoming more entrenched in her madness. Now I'm going to have to step away real quick. I will be right back, guys. to this. Sorry about the interruption, guys. Okay. Now, instead of these dreams bringing clarity to Tiana, she interprets these dreams as signs of divine power. These delusions grow as Tiana begins to see herself as a god among her people, justifying her bloodlust as a divine pursuit, somehow righteous and just, dismissing those around her in her isolation. Dismissing those around her in her isolation if they question her methods. She isolates even more into the conflict going on within her mind. Believing herself a goddess, she begins to preach to those who still follow her, promising a future that will never come. She knows that the final outcome for most who follow her is likely to end in a dark, hideous way. This is not enough to convince her to change. She is enthralled in this seductive power, in the seduction of power, and the madness that comes with it. Knowingly, she sends her people to their death, enjoying the thought of each life being extinguished at her command. She sits in open view as these people are gathered, sorted in groups, and then sent off to their demise, sometimes watching as they are murdered in horrible sacrificial rites that she knows are meaningless. As this plays out, though, there are those close to her that sees her behaviors, advisors who become weary of her. Her outburst and unpredictability becomes the true enemy of her desires and plans of power. These subjects are no longer influenced by Soma, the drug that turned them into mindless followers of the Draco. They begin to see her true nature in the horror that is unfolding in front of them, questioning their loyalty to Tiana. They can clearly see the madness within their tyrannical rulers, and they are torn between what they have seen and where their loyalties lie. Witnessing entire families being dragged from their homes and called in order to fill the demands of the Draco, those they call their gods. These human soldiers, commanded by Tiana herself and not Draco, witnessed by those who can now see clearly. These people witnessed the ritual sacrifices of their own kind also being done by Tiana and her followers. These deaths were also performed in order to appease Draco and Tiana's bloodlust. The divide between the followers who stayed behind in order to worship their new gods began to take hold. The ones who are still blindly following, and those who are now awakening from their delusion or dreams of delusion. Some viewing her outbursts as madness, or her outbursts of madness as divine omens, while others seeing them for what they really were. And like I said, this is the rough draft, so I have to go through here and correct this as much as I correct it and everything. So now those advisors close to Tiana began to notice the enjoyment she gets from those who are tortured and put to death. They see the pleasure she gets not just from the men being put to death, but the women who are being murdered as well. The majority of those close to her are the women from her tribes and culture, so inhumane acts are nothing to them. When they see women being treated badly, though, they begin to question the motives behind their leader. They themselves no longer protected by the beliefs that they and Tiana once held. Everyone's lives are now at risk. Tiana now believes herself a goddess, so when her demands aren't met, her servants see the outburst. The They question and then they debate. Should they speak out or remain silent? As her no, as her requests aren't met, the violence escalates and the whispers grow. Fearing Tiana's unpredictability, her advisors and loyal followers are now starting to question her rule. Further engulfed in madness, isolation, and outbursts, Tiana begins to create divisions among those around her. No, Tiana begins to create division among those around her. Advisors and servants watch as she exits her domicile of solitude, noticing the irrational behaviors that Tiana participates in, showing impatience with an outburst of anger towards her servants and even ordering people's arrest because of petty reasons. Tiana's court becomes an environment of fear created by moments of insanity, instability, and absolute power. Voices from the past begin to haunt Tiana. Tortured souls surround her in the darkness of her lonely cell, bouncing in and out of the shadows from each corner of the room, stalking Tiana's every move. Advisors watch as she twitches and turns in fear, seeing things that aren't there, hearing things that nobody else hears, awaiting for the consequences as each incident occurs. They fear seeing her come out of her place of isolation. Not only does she see her victims, she begins to hear those who are dead as they whisper to her. Conversations would be interrupted with advisors as Tiana breaks out into conversation with people who aren't in the room. This would cause an uneasy and shocking feeling for those advisors, further pulling them out of their delusion, allowing them to once more join into the world of reality rather than remain under the influence of the dreaded soma, the drug that has enslaved them. Servants begin to notice as Tiana walks by them, having a conversation with herself. This also brings a little more reality as everyone in her presence begins to notice the madness taking hold. Soon, Tiana begins to talk to objects within the rooms. Tiana begins to talk to objects within the room too, causing more distress among her subjects that are close to her. Tiana's inner turmoil deepens as she argues with people who apparently aren't in the room, and these incidents are pointed out by the people around her who notice. She begins to isolate even further with herself, hiding away from people more, while trying to avoid speaking as much as possible. After pointing out these incidents, most of Tiana's servants and advisors were quickly subjected to public beatings. Most of these beatings took place on the spot or in front on the spot and in front of her other subjects, further awakening those subdued by Soma's seductive influence. As the outbursts become more and more common, more comments are made, and more are soon arrested, imprisoned, and put to death. Retiring from her court, Tiana's advisors begin to worry about her mental stability, witnessing the madness taking place. They witness their fellow servants and advisors being beaten, arrested, and murdered. This in turn awakens their consciousness. They become aware of the things that have been taking place, and the reality of their situation become apparent. Soon this discussion of Tiana's sanity becomes apparent as well, causing more tyranny and imprisonment, thus causing more discussion in return. Soon there is a divide within the followers, and their allegiance comes into question. As the effect of the Soma begins to wear off, allegiance begins to split among the followers of the Draco. Many are seeing the brutality of what it really is, while others see this as a divine ritual, and place Tiana up high, making her into almost a goddess among them. They create altars of human sacrifice where the flesh of man is fed to the gods, the mighty Draco. Others began to whisper until the whispers turned into murmurs and then shouts, speaking out against the tyranny that played out in front of them. With these awakenings, though, the callings become more and more. People were plucked out of crowds like lottery. These once followers of Tiana were nothing more than lambs being led to the slaughter. Those who had the patience and were able to remain silent were the ones who made a difference, though. Being able to awaken from the influence of Soma without being noticed, these individuals began to network, discussing the things taking place and eventually coming up with a plan of action. It quickly became apparent, though, that the effects of Soma were different for most. Some seemed to come out of the illusion faster than others. As time went by, these awakened survivors were able to see when others still influenced were themselves awakening, thus being able to pull them out of harm's way and leading them to safety without being detected by the Draco or Tiana's men. Tiana's eyes glistened as she watched with excitement. The sight of those who were being slaughtered at the altar exhilarated her. She took pleasure in the torture, which produced a sensation of euphoria within her mind. Her eyes opened wide as her pupils dilated. The chemical reaction of pleasure. She felt a sense of excitement and arousal as she watched ritual sacrifices and torture. It was almost to the point of ecstasy and erotic pleasure that a person would feel in normal emotional situations. Tiana, though, found this trigger from the act of brutality, torture, and death. She was enthralled in the bloodlust. Tiana memorized every time scheduled for public sacrifices and executions in order to make it there on time to witness her own people being tortured and put to death. She insisted that she be present when calls were gathered and her people were selected to be either experimented on, executed, or sacrificed to the Draco for food. If she were late to any of these appointments, servants would witness as she frantically ran from her quarters, pushing those in front of her as she passed in order to make it to the event. As time went by, her memory began to fail her, so this would take place regularly as well. "Get out of my way," she yelled as she pushed servants to the side. It's time. I can't be late for the event." Servant maids would quickly dodge to avoid being in her path. They didn't want to feel the wrath of her sting. Tiana was known to be brutal. She would knock some of the maids down when she was like this. "Get out of my way," she screamed as she rushed by in the hallways. They knew right away where she was going. She was going to her regular death party. She could not miss it. To Tiana, it was like going to a carnival, fair, or play, and it brought excitement to her every time. Once, as she raced through the hallways on her way to her daily show, Tiana had an altercation with a maid in the hallway. The maid was doing her daily duties like she did every day, like she did for every day of her life, and she quickly became one of those poor, misfortunate ones who got in the way. When Tiana ran down the hall yelling, "Get out of my way, I'm late, get out of my way," she saw this maid in her way and, as usual, reached out her arm to push her to the side. This time, though, the results were disastrous, for the maid anyhow. Pushing the maid caused her to slip. Instead of falling forward away from Tiana, she fell backwards into Tiana. This in turn knocked Tiana back, causing her to fall to the floor. She was knocked unconscious, but later awoken, missing the execution that was scheduled to take place. Out of anger, Tiana ordered that the maid was to be executed immediately. From that point on, it was made clear Tiana was to be awakened and ready for the day before any of the scheduled executions. If she wasn't, there would be consequences, and everybody understood what those consequences would be. Alright, so that is the farthest that I want to go with that. And as you can tell with me reading it, it's going to take me a while to get all of that going and edit it out. And that was only to the catalyst, so I want to go through and I want to do the spell checks. I want to do the grammar, everything, make it sound better, things of that. This is just the raw draft, but there's more to it too, but it's like I said, I want to go through and do some work on it, and then later on when I come back to the Storyteller, I'll come out with some more stuff that or I'll read the final draft like I did for the first story that I did at the beginning of this series for 2024. And you know, I've said it before, man. I would put more time into it, but it just for me, I'm having issues with getting or having the time to focus on my writing and stuff here lately. I'm working on making sure that's not the case anymore. So I do have other things that I need to be doing. Like right now, I've got Operation Secret Santa going on that I'm doing on Mind's Roundtable weekend event, and I'm doing it with Jaffe Ryder and Captain Sinclair on WPRMP. So I've been doing that, and it's something interesting that I've been doing. I've finished up on my channel Earth for the year. Now I have this to do, and I'm done here. So with that, the only thing I have to worry about taking care of is Gaming with Infamous with my podcast, and that's it for the rest of the year. So it looks like I am caught up. I hope you guys did enjoy this series. If you do have comments and stuff that you want to make, feel free to make them. And like I said, I apologize about the interruptions. It looks like I have an hour of recording that I actually was able to make. It's 59 minutes and 30 seconds, so it looks like I actually did make an hour's worth of it. Well, I did have to step away for a minute, and just so people know, those music clips aren't anything that I have to worry about with copyright. Those are music that I put together, so I know that's a good deal. So again, with that being said, I am going to stop the recording, and thank you guys for watching.